Ikoria is quite possibly the most mechanically complex black-bordered magic set to date. For that reason alone, I want to take a moment today to talk about the mechanics we have returning and also debuting in Ikoria, in an attempt to sift through all the clutter around them. But before we begin, let me get through a couple of updates, the first of which is that there won't be a gameplay video this week. In its place throughout the weekend, and some of next week, we'll have videos like this, which take a look at the mechanics of Ikoria and Commander 20, and also include segments of a roundtable impressions video featuring myself, Devin, and Geo discussing Commander 20 and Ikoria in depth. So don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to see this content as it comes out. And of course, if there's any legends from either C20 or Ikoria you want to see a deck tech on, let us know in the comments. We'll eventually do them all, but your input will help guide the order we do them in. Also, if you're planning to buy either Ikoria or Commander 20 product, don't forget that you can support the channel directly at no additional cost to you by purchasing through our TCG affiliate link down in the description and the comments. Finally, feel free to join Devin, myself, and some of our friends this upcoming Tuesday over at twitch.tv/TheCommanderGuys. We're going to stream some Jackbox games and do a live quarantine Q&A as our way of safely celebrating 2,000 subs. Once again, that'll be Tuesday, April 14th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Alright, without any further ado, let's talk about Ikoria's mechanics. And we're going to take a look at them from the least complex to the most, starting with cycling. And I mean, it's cycling. We've seen it before. It's an activated ability from the hand, in which you pay a cost, usually in the form of mana, and draw a card. In Ikoria, we also have several cards which trigger whenever you cycle a card, and a new enchantment which can replace the draw you would normally get from cycling. On top of that, we also have the return of cycling lands, only they're tricycle lands this time instead of bicycle. And that's pretty much it for cycling. It's a straightforward mechanic we've seen before. The first of our new mechanics is keyword counters, which, once again, are fairly self-explanatory. They're counters, which give the permanents they're listed on a relevant keyword from the set, for as long as it remains a creature and has those counters. They created these little keyword counter punch-outs to represent them. And of course, having multiple copies of the same keyword counter won't double up the effect. A handful of cards in the set either place keyword counters, or care about creatures actually having specific keywords. Beyond that, it's just another way that Ikoria provides to make your vanilla creatures just that much stronger. Next up for our new mechanics, we have the first of the two complex ones, Companion. There's a total of 10 of them, and you can see them right here. Each companion is a legendary creature, which lists the deck building restriction. As long as your starting deck follows that restriction, the legendary creature can be classified as your companion. So what does that even mean? Well, you can have up to one companion for each game, and importantly, it doesn't start in your main deck. It starts on your sideboard for a competitive game, or your collection in a casual game without sideboards. For constructed formats, it counts towards your 15-card sideboard limit. At the start of the game, you declare you want to play with a companion, and then you prove you meet the requirement to do so. So now that we have a companion in the game, what can we do with it? Well, once during the game, you can cast your companion from your sideboard. When you do, it goes into the game for good and acts just like a creature card or spell depending on where it's at. From there, if it's countered or removed, it goes to the relevant zone and won't be returned to your sideboard until the game ends. And beyond having the capability to be your companion, the cards that have companion are also legendary creatures with powerful effects, and they can be treated just as a legendary creature, disregarding the text for companion. And actually, there's two specific things I want to bring up for Commander with companions. Companion checks the contents of your starting deck. Now for Commander, that means that your Commander also has to meet the deck building requirement that the companion imposes upon it. For example, for the Boros one, every permanent in your deck has to have an activated ability. That would include your Commander. So now you're looking at two restrictions on your deck building, if you were to run that as a companion. You would have to both A, meet your Commander's Commander identity, and B, every permanent card inside your deck would have to have an activated ability. In addition, it's worth noting that the Izzet one, Lutri the Spellchaser, has been preemptively banned in Commander, and honestly it's with good reason. Its deck building restriction of requiring each non-land card to not share a name is irrelevant to Commander. That's the whole point of it. So it basically acts as a free 101st card in any Commander deck which has a minimum of red and blue in its color identity, which means it ends up being a dual caster mage which you can cast once at any time. Understandably, it was preemptively banned. Alright, so that all brings us to our final mechanic, Mutate, and oh boy, you may want to sit down for this one. Mutate is an alternate cost on creature spells. Obviously, you can still cast creatures for their normal mana cost if they have Mutate. It enters the battlefield as normal, just as if you cast it as a creature spell. But when you cast a creature for its Mutate cost, everything changes. First off, you obviously pay the Mutate cost rather than the spell's normal mana cost. In addition, you must have a non-human creature on the battlefield under your control to target. It's a requirement to actually cast a spell for its Mutate cost. Once you hit those two checkboxes though, you're good to cast a Mutate spell. From there, when it resolves, it doesn't enter the battlefield. I want to repeat that. It does not enter the battlefield. Rather, it merges with its target into one singular creature, in a process referred to as mutating. From there, you can choose to put the mutating creature on top of its target or underneath it, resulting in a pile of cards which represents a single creature. This single creature has all the characteristics of the top card, for example name, mana cost, power and toughness, types, etc., but it has the abilities of all of its component cards. This is all a bit much, of course, so let's go ahead and take a look at an example. Let's say we start off with this creature in play, but we also have a Majestic Auricorn in hand, and we decide to cast it for its Mutate cost of 3 and a white, targeting our Stormcrow. When Majestic Auricorn resolves, we get the choice to put it on top of Stormcrow or underneath it. If it goes on top, we now have a new creature named Majestic Auricorn, which is a 4/4 unicorn creature with flying, vigilance, and whenever this creature mutates, you gain 4 life. If it goes on bottom, we have another new creature named Stormcrow, which is a 1/2 bird creature, which still has flying, vigilance, and whenever this creature mutates, you gain 4 life. Simple enough, right? On top of that, our creature just mutated, so any abilities it has which trigger when a creature mutates will happen. In our previous example, we would gain 4 life from mutating our Stormcrow. But I can already hear you say, come on Matt, what happens if the creature I'm targeting gets removed before my mutate creature resolves? Won't I get 2 for 1? Well, don't fret actually, because if your mutate creature loses its mutate target, it still enters the battlefield as if it were cast. You'll get any ETB effects which would normally trigger, but you won't get any mutation triggers. Finally, there's no limit to the number of times a creature can be mutated, and each time it happens, the resulting creature gets a bigger and bigger text box, and will trigger all mutation triggers it has. Of course, since mutating results in a single creature, any removal will cause all of the attached creatures to be sent to the appropriate zone. For example, the graveyard in the case of murder, exile in the case of Swords to Plowshare, and even the command zone in the case of something like Leadership Vacuum. As a quick note, anything that gets sent to the command zone that isn't a commander is kinda just stuck there. With all of that out of the way, we've pretty much covered the stuff which is relevant about how Mutate works in all formats. In short, it's an alternate casting cost which requires you to target a non-human creature you control. From there, the Mutate creature is placed on the battlefield, on top of or underneath the creature it's mutating. The resulting abomination then counts as a single creature with all the characteristics of the top card and the combined rules text of both cards. Now let's go a little bit deeper with the rules here and look at Mutate as it relates to Commander, and even more specifically, as it relates to running one of the Cycle of Mutate legends as your commander. This script was written before the official rules updates for Ikoria have come out. Despite that, I'm sure what I'm about to say is correct, barring any new changes to the official rules. Let's say we have a Luna Apex of Wishes in the command zone. If we control a non-human creature, we can cast it for its mutate cost, targeting it. Which brings me to my first point. Mutate is an alternate cost, not an activated ability like Derevi. We'll still be required to pay the standard commander tax for each time we've cast a Luna from the command zone this game, regardless of whether we cast it for its mana cost or for its mutate cost. My second point actually comes once our commander has been cast for its mutate cost and is about to be placed on the battlefield. Whether we choose to put our commander on top of or underneath our non-human target actually doesn't matter too much. The resulting permanent will still be considered our commander either way. So in short, if you mutate your mutate commander under another creature for some reason, it still counts as your commander for the purposes of things like commander damage. Man, there's only 3 new mechanics in Ikoria, but they're all fairly complex, and to be honest, we've barely scratched the surface of the possible interactions we can see from keyword counters, companion, and mutate. If there's any specific interactions you have questions about, leave them down in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them there, or in a follow-up video if there's enough to warrant it. Thanks for being here for this video, and I look forward to seeing you guys throughout the weekend, and next week, while I cover more Ikoria content. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell to see it, and remember the appreciation stream on Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Stay safe.